Let's get this gentleman up. He had a Saturday training. Matter of fact, I hope to give us an update, sir, on how your Saturday training went. He's out in Summersville, South Carolina. Him and his lovely wife and his team, an organization out there doing some major things. So without further ado, on every Monday this month of October, can we give the great regional director, Mr. Curtis Evans, hand? Mr. Curtis Evans.
Hello, everybody. Hello,
Oh,
hello,
we're close
hello. I
to,
hope you
okay.
can hear me. I hope I got everything working right today. I want to help you guys to appreciate what you got on your hands. Every blue moon, the economy goes through something and people are looking and that's when things are on your side. When there's a lot of people out of work or worried about being out of work. You got a lot of people you talk to that say, I'm comfortable, I'm good to go. I don't need, I'm good. And what they're saying is they got enough money to last Friday. That's what they're really saying. When they say, I'm good to go, what they're saying is, I got $12.18. It'll get me to Friday. That's what they're saying. Okay. And so it doesn't take a whole lot for some people to be doing well. Now let's talk about when you're doing well. When you're doing well, your residual income, however that is, and however that comes through a CD or whatever else you got going on, is probably double what you need as far as money is concerned. So if you need 5,000 a month, you got 10,000 coming in. If you need, whatever it is you need coming in, you got more than that coming in without lifting a finger. Okay, without lifting a finger. In other words, this is not what most people are talking about. So most people, as they're raised, like I was raised to get a job, and I say this over and over that my mother, Carolyn John, taught me to get a good education, go get a good job. And most people that way. And the system says that you'll be paid on Friday. Okay. Now it's automatically dumps in your checking account. So you're paid on Friday. And most people, by the time they get off of work, at least by Saturday morning, they're broke again. And when you ask them if they're okay, you say, are you good to go? Are you open to making any money around your busy schedule? Well, however you come to them, they're really saying that I have enough money till next Friday. Okay. They're not talking about next week and next month and next year. You can't see that far out. And so it's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just how you're raised. Okay. And so, but the good thing about everybody on this call today, we really understand that we have done some self-development. We know what it takes to do well. We got two structures in our one company with a great structure. One is the bonus money. Okay. That's the bonus money. Your ETL, you get this much. Your RC, you get this much. So if you got 10, I'll just use this example. If you got 10 IBOs that qualified this month and you're your ETL, you made an extra $500. Okay. If you got 10 IBOs that qualified, you and or people in your group that qualified in your RC, you that's 150 times 10 is $1,500, okay, that you made. Now remember, you still got your job, okay? You still got your job. And so in addition to what you're making, you made an extra what, Danny, paying $1,500 that month. And Mr. Al Randolph, if he's RD and his organization produced 10 IBOs that month through a system that he has, he made an extra $2,500 that month. Now he still has his what? Job. Okay, that's the thing. So when people look at this business, they got to realize that this is Jackson. This is in addition. This is in addition to what they're already making. Okay, so that's not too bad, right? Mr. Jed Miles, he's RD. His organization produced 10 IBOs. They all qualified. So he made an additional $2,500 that month in addition to what he already made. Okay, so that's what this is about. Now you can scale this. You can scale this so that one day, if you have a system means save yourself time and your money. If you have a system, then that system could have created what? 100 IBOs this month. 100 IBOs, and Mr. Jed Miles is an RD. We'll say the ETLs get their 50, so 200 times 100, he made an extra $20,000 a month that month. Okay, the system doesn't care. It's different than a job. A job, they said, well, we paid Maria Estrada enough money. Why is she asking for more money? We paid her, $5,000 last month. Why should we pay her more? Let's give Sam Foster some of that money because he needs some. It's a system. We're in a system where it doesn't care if Miss Estrada had 1,000 IBOs that hit her organization as an RD last month, and assuming the ETLs got their part. So 1,000 times 200, is $200,000 that she earned that month. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, do you have a system? And if you don't, then you need to create one, okay? You need to create a system that will produce 10 IBOs a month, a system that will create or produce 100 IBOs a month, a system. And you can't work that hard. Your only goal is to be able to put your 1 or 2 IBOs in that month, your personal, because you remember, don't depend on your upline and don't depend on your downline. What did you do? What did you personally do? Okay, what did you personally do? And that's what Jeff Street is teaching us. And I told you I was going to use that training this month. It's no different than what Mr. Thomas is teaching as well. They both are high income earners in multi-level marketing. They both came from a company called Excel Communications, like I. They both know that it works, okay? And so they have a system, and that system works. It produces. So save yourself time, energy, and money. So today, what I wanted to do is go over, sometimes it's not what you do, is how much you do, and then how much you teach. And keep this in mind, the system don't care. The one thing I like about ACN is it don't care. If you brought in 3, you'll get paid. If they get customers, you will get paid. It also pays them. The system also pays everybody in the system a residual income on all of those customers. So now, not only are you making money now this Friday because of what happened, you're also making money this month, but you're also making money every month from the customers that's in the system. How else are you going to be able to get those customers? If I got 2,000 customers in my organization, and I'm in Danny Payne's organization, I'm on 2 levels deep in Danny Payne's organization, then Danny Payne is getting paid on 2,000 extra customers. How can he sign up 2,000 customers? He can't. That's the system. So you got to trust the system. You got to understand the system. So I'm going to put on this video, and I'm going to pick up where I left yesterday. And all he's doing is explaining the system. I got behind me 100 squares on that board. And I got to fill them up. This is not Mr. Thomas gave me a lead and I put it up on the board. This is my work, okay? In other words, you got to forget your upline, you got to forget your downline. What did you do? And once you got that system down right, now you can teach that to other people in your group, okay? You can teach them, and some are going to do it, and some aren't. That's not your problem. You got to divorce yourself with outcome. So what we're going to do is go over
to the beginning of my journey in network marketing. See, I got involved in this industry at 19 years old. I was a college student at the time. My ex-girlfriend's mom was the one that invited me to a presentation. I got back from the beach one day. I was at my mom's house I was home for the summer from college, and my ex-girlfriend's mom called me up, and I don't even know what she said to this day. I just remember that she was excited. And based on her excitement, I literally drove to a meeting 15 minutes later, 10 minutes down the street to see this opportunity. I had blonde hair down to my chin at the time. I walked into the meeting with board shorts, literally a tank top on and flip-flops. That was the first network marketing meeting that I went to. How many of us would have prejudged me right away and be like, this guy's probably not going to do anything here? But you know what? I went to that meeting, my eyes were wide open. See, growing up, my mom was one of the top distributors in New England for a company called Princess House Crystal. Any ladies remember Princess House? So I knew that network marketing worked. My mom never had a traditional job when I was growing up. She had a cake decorating business and she did network marketing. So I knew that this worked. I just didn't want to sell plates. And so I go to a presentation, I signed up in this industry, and man, I was excited. And man, I built that company. And I know that there's some of you guys on this call that you were in a situation that was similar to the one that I went through. Man, I loved that company that I got involved in. And I built that business for 4 years, and I put everything that I had in that business. Man, I hit one of the higher levels in that company at 22 years old. And shortly after hitting that position, the company unfortunately went out of business. Now, who would agree in business, things like that happen. But when you're 22, who would agree your maturity level isn't very high. And for me, when that happened, I was so brokenhearted that I said to myself, I will never get involved in this industry again. Whenever I have children, I'll make sure that my kids sign up, because the personal growth the self-development, the leadership, learning how to public speak, learning how to deal with people is so powerful. I'll make sure my kids do it, but me, I'm out. I'm going to get in traditional business. That looks really glamorous. So I get in the cell phone industry. And most of you guys know that, I went out and I built a handful of cell phone stores while I was in college. I was going to school I was literally running my business during the day and doing classes at night. Took me 7 years to graduate college, but it was because I opened a business as a junior in college. And, so I was, having success and thinking I was conquering the world. And I did this personal development course called Landmark Education, the Landmark Forum. For anybody that hasn't heard of that, I would write it down. For anybody that's like, man, I need a good, strong weekend other than our convention of just personal development to just cut the cord of my past so I can really walk fully into the future. So I did this course. And in that course, I met a gentleman, some of you guys know him, named Patrick Mazer. And Patrick and I first met and became friends at a personal development course. You can meet like-minded people at a personal development course who would agree with that. And he had actually just got started in ACN. He's like, man, you should take a look at what I'm doing. And I'm like, is it network marketing? He goes, yeah, how'd you know? I go, look, whatever you're selling, I'm buying, but I don't want to go to any meetings. I'm out. And I remember Patrick said something that's going to go back into the training I'm about to give you guys that was so powerful. And I've used it for years now. But here's what he said to me. He said, no problem. I'd love to have you be my customer. Thank you so much for being willing to support me. Is it okay if I follow up with you in 90 to 180 days just to update you on my progress? And guys, every 90 to 180 days for 5 years, Patrick followed up with me. Now, some people get irritated if somebody doesn't join the first night. For 5 years, guys, every 90 to 180 days, Patrick followed up with me, just shared what was going on, asked what was going on in my life, and said, hey, would you want to check out another meeting? No, bro, I'm okay. And at the end of it, he was always like, is it okay if I follow up with you in another 90 to 180 days just to update you on my progress? And guys, that went on for 5 years. But who'd agree when our circumstances change, our mindset changes, right? And so years later, I'm 26 now. My cell phone business is falling apart. Sprint and Nextel merges together. You guys have all heard me tell the story. I'm $50,000 in credit card debt. I literally, hadn't taken a paycheck from my own business in 6 months. I have no idea what the heck's going on in my life. And one of my stores gets robbed. Somebody throws a brick through the front windshield of one of my cell phone stores and walked in and literally stole every piece of inventory that we had. And here I am broken. But guys, sometimes a setback is a setup for something greater. Sometimes the bigger the test, the greater your testimony. Who would agree with that? Mm-hmm. And at one of the lowest moments of my life, I'll remember I'm sitting there with the insurance company on the phone, like banging my head up against the wall, like just so frustrated. Earlier on that morning, I saw this quote on my bedroom wall that I hadn't read in years. It said, the day that you know that you've made it is when you can't go to sleep because reality is better than your dreams. Mm. And I dropped down on my knees and started crying when I saw it because I was so far off the beaten path that morning of where I thought I was going to be at that point in my life. And I prayed. And that same day, I see this brand new red Mercedes SL 550 hardtop convertible pull up right in front of my store. And all of a sudden the top opened and then it closed. And then the top opened again and then it closed again. Then the top opened one more time and then it closed again. And out walks from the car walks Patrick Mazer. And I remember him walking into my store and, golden tan skin and custom clothes and the diamonds from his Rolex almost blinded me. But that wasn't what got me. He walked into my store that day at a point when I was broken. And here's what he said, brother, don't you miss the high fives. Don't you miss the people helping people. Don't you miss the camaraderie. Don't you miss people sharing with you their dreams and people working together. I was like, man, I got to go to I got to go to a meeting. It goes, good, there's one tonight. And guys, that night is when I got started in ACN. But understand this, how many of us have ever heard the story of Roger Bannister? If you haven't heard the story of Roger Bannister, he was the first person in history to run the 5-minute mile. They said it was scientifically and medically impossible for somebody to run the mile at that velocity. They said you'd have a heart attack and die. And then along comes Roger Bannister and he breaks the 4-minute mile barrier. And he breaks it. And it was incredible. He studied his stride. He broke the 4-minute mile barrier. And it was incredible. What was more incredible is over the next several years to come, over 200 people did the same thing. Now, who'd agree gravity didn't change? Here's all that changed. One person showed that it was possible. See, longevity equals credibility. And people all the time like, hey, Jeff, like I ran out of people. Can you teach me how to cold market? Like, yes, I can teach you how to cold market, and that's good and all, but I'd rather teach you about the gold market. And tonight I want to teach you guys about the gold market because I want you to understand that the fortune is in the follow-up. I want you to understand that people are looking at you. See, there's a lot of people right now that are in a bad place, who degrade. There's a lot of people that are praying. There's a lot of people that are hoping for something different. There's so much uncertainty in our world, in our country, in our economy right now. People are looking, but also realize a lot of people have called the people that we know and they talk to them about other ideas and other opportunities. And let me tell you what most of those people did. And I just want to be really real with everybody. Is it okay if I talk to you like a leader here tonight? Because this is leadership class. Here's what most of those people did that called the individuals that we know that are on our list. They were an amateur. They weren't a professional. They called them all excited about something. Person came to their meeting. That person said, I'm going to go all the way in this. And 2 months later, they quit because 6 people said no to them. See, that's what most people do. Most people say, here's where I'm going. But when adversity happens, most people stop. Who would agree? Champions realize that the test determines the testimonial, right? And I know we got 60 champions on this call here tonight looking to take this thing all the way. I just want to tell you what most people do in business, what most people do in life. Who would agree? Most people that join the gym aren't still working out 3 months from now. Most people that make a New Year's resolution aren't still keeping it at the end of January. Here it is, February 17th. And most people no longer are keeping that resolution that they made on January 1st, just 48 days ago. And so guys, here's what I know. We can't be like most people who would agree with that. And so one of the biggest things that you got to know when it comes to recruiting is people are watching you. People want to see what you're doing. People want to see, are you still doing this 90 days from now? People want to see, are you still doing this 180 days from now? So that's why what Patrick taught me, do I have permission to follow up to you 90 to 180 days later? That's been something that I've been doing my entire time in this industry. And I found amazing person after amazing person after amazing person by giving people grace, having patience, and having the discipline to follow up with people. So that's one of the first things I want to really tell you here tonight. Somebody write in the chat, the fortune is in the follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up. Steve Lifite, man, he didn't get started the first day. Like we talked a gazillion times. I went up to Maine and met him in person. You know, it was a long, recruiting is a process, not an event. And when you start to understand that, you start really becoming what's called a professional network marketer. And that's my goal in the last 24 minutes here tonight, is to teach you guys how to become a professional network marketer. And when it comes to being a professional in this industry, there's 2 things I believe that you need to master. The first thing you got to master is personal development. See, you can't control what your downline does. You can't control what your upline does. How many of us would want to control what our downline does, right? We can't control what they do. You can't, some people are, oh, my upline, they don't do the things that I want them to do. So what? We can't control what they do. We can't control what they do. Here's who we control: ourselves. We are the only ones that we can control. And to master this industry, the first thing is you got to master personal development. See, you have to become the leader that other people want to follow. You know, when I got started 17 years ago, 26 years old, pretty broken, you know, just not where I needed to be, not on the spiritual journey that I'm on today, that's for sure. Didn't have the character, you know, I had the enthusiasm, I had the work ethic, but the person I was 17 years ago would never be able to sign up the people that I'm signing up today. Does that make sense to everybody? Because you don't become great at anything overnight, right? So you got to work on yourself, man. Andy Andrews, the speaker at our convention, when Melissa and I first started dating, like a month or 2 after we started dating, we were talking about personal growth. I bought her that book, The Traveler's Gift. That was one of the first personal growth books that Melissa ever read. You know, that book was life-changing for me and for so many people. So if you're like looking for something to read right now, knowing that he's going to be our guest speaker 3 weeks from now, if you haven't read The Traveler's Gift, I encourage you to read that book. That's a great place to start. Matter of fact, I got interviewed this week on the #1 network marketing podcast show in the country. And, you know, he asked me, what's the first book you would recommend to somebody? Simon Chen is his name. And I said, you know, I said, Andy Andrews, The Traveler's Gift. And so that's a great place to start. So one spot is you got to become the person that other people want to follow. And if you're taking notes, write that down. I will become the person that other people want to follow. The second part of really becoming a professional network marketing is you got to master personal recruiting. See, you can only put the team on the field that you have on your roster. Let me say that again. You got to think like the GM of your own sports team here. How many of us like sports? You know, you got to be the GM of your own sports team. Now, the NFL season just ended. You know, congratulations to the Chiefs. They won the Super Bowl. That's exciting. But now here's what's happening. Every NFL team in the country, here's what they're doing. They're scouting. They're preparing for the draft. They're looking to see what trades that can they do. What players are they going to do? Matter of fact, you know, I know we got, you know, Dale and Kelly. Kelly's literally working with these NFL players right now. She's their agent for many of them, figuring out what team are they going to. These young guys coming out of college, what team's going to pick them? And these and the GM of a team, they're looking for talent to go out and bolster the roster of their team. Now, who would agree the Detroit Lions this past year, they could only put the players on the field that they had on the roster? You know, who would agree they would have loved to have, you know, a better wide receiver or quarterback or whatever get on the field, but those people weren't on the roster. So realize wherever you're at in your business right now is where you're at. Does that make sense? And you can only put the players on the field to go and get reps and customers that you have on your roster. But if you think like the GM, and especially you realize in today's time, there's so many talented people that are in what I call the draft pool right now. Meaning I believe there's more people now than I've ever seen in my 17 years doing this, talented, successful people, people that are leaders, people that have done great things, people like the Steve Leifeites of the world, people like the Bob and Carolyn Ferngrens in the world, people that have done amazing things that right now are like, yeah, I'm open. I'm open for something different. So the draft is plentiful. Who would agree in the NFL, some years the draft has amazing talent. Other years, the talent is still good, but it wasn't as good as it was the year before. Right now, the draft is plentiful. So you got to have that mindset. And here's the thing. One thing that I learned, everybody hears us talk about sorting. One thing I learned a long time ago, they said, look, you got to make recruiting a game. How many of us want to make something a game that becomes fun? They said, look, the secret of success in this industry is you have to learn how to detach the emotions from the yeses and the nos.
So what we're doing here is I played this 3 or 4 groups over the course of the week, and I've got to show you guys this part last week, but next week we'll get into the deep recruiting part there. So what I want to do is to make sure that you know that this man was in multi-level marketing before, and he resisted coming back into the business, okay? Do you know how many people were in multi-level marketing before and they know it works, but something in their life, they might have been upline, down, might have been something, they never understood it, they never went to a training class. And so one of the questions Jimmy Dix taught me was, he asked me if they ever came to training. And 99% of the people that's been in multi-level marketing before never went to a training. They never went to a training with Mr. Tom. Could you imagine saying, I'm an airplane pilot, but I never went to training. I drive a bus, but I drive a car, but I never went, I run a machine at a steel mill, but I never went to train. It don't even make sense. So he always asked, they said, well, I was in one of those things. He said, did you go to training? And they always say no. So how in the world say, hey, we're going to help you make a lot of money, but you got to come to training. And before, and Mr. Cooper's told me personally, he said, if you have a training in your town, tell them, come to training. I don't have money, come to training, so they can see the value of the business. So we're all learning. We've been spending a lot of time doing. Now it's time to put the rubber on the road, because there's going to be a lot of people that AI was going to displace. A lot of people that just won't have a job because of AI. And there's a lot of other forces going on around the world today as companies are downsizing and right sizing and all that. We've never been in a situation. Anybody on this call that said they've been in a situation like this before is lying. Nobody never seen this. What's about to happen, no one's ever seen before. And so there'll be tons of people because of market pressure. So I won't go over the details, but you all are ready to go with this thing. You're all, everybody on this call is ready to go. You've been training for this. You've been getting ready for this. And so your goal here is to lead a team of people, okay? Not to be led. You've already been led. Mr. Thomas is taking us to the promised land. Now it's our turn to turn around and grab 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 people. And the way you do that is get the emotions out of the way. Just get the emotion out of the way. If somebody says no, hey, can I get back to you in 6 months to show you this? Because something changes. Something takes place, something changes. And then that you do what you say, put them on the list and get back with them. There's some other tools that we're going to show you next week. I'm sorry, I forgot to show you this part last week. But next week, we'll dig into the meat and potatoes of what to do with that chart that's right behind. We had a great meeting last week. We had a half a room full of people. I mean, we were kind of shocked because it rained like a horse. We had a king tide last week, and it's a big tide that comes on the East Coast. And there's and in Charleston, it rained out. I mean, a heavy rain. And so, but we had a half a room full of people, and everybody was standing on their feet screaming, took pictures. It was just fun. So you guys make your business work. You know what to do. Let's make it work. Now, I'm gonna tell you what's about to happen has never happened before. A lot of these people were sitting fat, dumb, and happy on a job, and the job has left them. Okay, the job left them. You might like your job, but your job might not like you. And a lot of people are going to be displaced. And you have to learn how to take those skills that Mr. Thomas taught us, how to get those 3 names and numbers, put them on the board behind you, okay, so you can keep up with it, so it won't be sight out of mind, mind out of sight, or sight out of mind, however that thing goes. So you can come back every day, look at who you need to contact again, and send them a presentation. If they like it, great. If they don't like it, great. But because you're going to contact them again in 6 months. We have a lot of work to do. That's all I have for today. I'm going to turn the floor back over to Mr. Thomas.